Once the property hit a certain size or complexity, skipping a professional engineer-based study isn't just about missing deductions, right? It's about how exposed you are if those deductions are ever questioned. And this distinction matters a lot more than most investors realize. Up to now in this course, we have covered what cost segregation does, how accelerated depreciation flow through the tax return, and how to think about it strategically. But the IRS doesn't audit strategy, they audit documentations. And that's exactly where the line between DIY analysis and the professional study become very distinguished, right, from each other. So this lesson, I'm going to anchor this decision and what the IRS itself actually look for, right? So based on the Cost Segregation Audit Technique guide, we'll talk about concrete threshold, not vibes. We'll talk about what examiner expect to see in defensible study. We'll talk about where DIYs break down, and we'll talk about how to avoid paying for a study that wouldn't survive in serious review. If you are an investor, this lesson protects your deductions. If you're a tax pro, this lesson protects your client relationship and your name on the return. Let's start with the big picture, straight from the IRS lens. According to the Audit Technique guides, the IRS draw a very clear distinction between two things. One, an allocation based on estimates or generalized percentages. Two, a cost segregation study based on a detailed engineering approach. And those are not treated the same way in an exam. A true engineering-based study, the IRS language is one that say, identify specific building components, determine their actual function, not just their appearance, assign class lines based on how those components relate to the operation or maintenance of the building, and tie costs back to the construction document, invoices, drawing, or engineering estimates. That's the standard. Anything that relies mainly on rule of thumb, residential method, or broad percentage allocation without component level support is explicitly described in the guide as weaker and more vulnerable on exam. That doesn't mean DIY analysis is always wrong. It means you need to know exactly when it stops being enough. So now let's talk about real decision point, right? Starting with the property size and value. From an IRS audit perspective, the larger the property, the more likely the examiner expect to see a study that follow a recognized engineering methodology. Small residential property, especially like single-family rental or simple duplexes, are often audited at return level, not at the study detail level. But once you move into larger dollar property, especially like commercial or multi-property, the IRS expect more rigor, right? Why? Because the depreciation differences are material. When a building has millions of dollars of basis, moving even 10% into a shorter-lived property can create six-figure deduction. And the audit technique guide made it clear. When material tax benefits are generated, the methodology used to generate them matters. So as a practical guideline, for small, simple residential properties, conservative DIY allocations might survive because the dollars are small and the components are limited. But once you cross into mid-six figures and seven-figure basic territory, especially outside of basic residential use, the expectation shifts toward a detailed study. Not because the IRS is required by statute, but because it's the level of documentation they expect to see when the stakes are high. Now let's layer in complexity, which is even more important than value. One of the most repeated themes in the audit technique guide is function. Now, what something look like, but not something what it look like, but it's what it does, right? The function. And this is where professional study pull away from DIY analysis, right? For example, the guide spent significant time discussing electrical, plumbing, and HVAC system. A DIY approach often treats this system as monolithic, so either part of the building or partially allocated using estimates. But the IRS guidance is much more granular. The electrical component that serve specific equipment, dedicated outlet, or specialized lighting, or process-driven system might qualify for shorter life. Plumbing that serves specialized processes, kitchens, lab, or medical equipment may be treated differently than the general building plumbing. HVAC systems that are dedicated to specific area or processes may not be treated the same as systems that condition the building as a whole. The IRS expects a study to identify the distinction and support them with documentation. That means drawings, that means measurements, that means typing systems to specific uses. If your property includes restaurants, medical offices, lab, manufacturing space, or heavy tenant improvements, a DIY template simply cannot capture this level of detail. And the IRS knows that, which is why the guide explicitly states that studies rely solely on non-engineering estimates are less reliable. This brings us to site work, one of the most commonly missed areas in DIY cost seg. The audit technique guide devotes entire sections to land improvements and exterior costs. Items like parking lot, sidewalks, curb, outdoor lighting, drainage system, landscaping, fencing. These are not part of the building. The IRS expects them to be identified, separated, and supported. A professional study will often break the cost out using civil drawing, surveys, and engineering estimates. A DIY approach usually guesses, and guessing is exactly what examiners are trained to look for. Now let's talk about something investors almost never think about until it's too late: consistency. The IRS doesn't just look at one line item in isolation. They look at whether the methodology makes sense across the whole property. If you allocate aggressively to 5 and 7 year property, but can't explain why major building systems aren't treated consistently, that's a red flag. Engineering-based studies are designed to create internal consistencies. DIY analysis often aren't. That doesn't mean DIY is useless. It means DIY is best used as a screening tool. Just like the template that I showed you in earlier lesson, that's just a screening tool, not as the final word on complex properties. So now let's move into fees-based tax savings, but from an IRS-informed angle. The real question isn't just, will I save more than the fees? It's, will I save more than the fee in a way that I can defend? The audit techniques guide make it clear that when deductions are large, examiner will request a full study supporting schedule, methodology, explanations, or documents. If you don't have that, you might still get some depreciation, but not necessarily the amount that you claim. That's the hidden risk. Paying for a study isn't just about maximizing deduction, it's about locking them in, which is why professional study often makes sense even when the raw math looks close. Now let's talk about how to vet a provider using IRS expectation, not marketing claims. First is methodology. A credible provider should be able to explain how their study aligns with the IRS recognized engineering approaches. They should talk about component identification, functional analysis, and documentation sources. If all you hear is we use standard percentage or we have done thousands of studies, that's not an answer. Second is documentation. Ask to see a sample report with appendices. You should see like component level detail. You should see clear class life assignments. You should see tie back to construction document or engineer estimates. You should see explanation that reference IRS principle, not just conclusions. The audit technique guide specifically instructs examiner to look for this level of detail. Third is team qualifications. The engineering-based meaning engineers, not just accountants, not just software, not just templates. The guide emphasizes that the study prepared with engineer expertise carry more weight. 4. Audit support. Ask question: what happens if the study is examined? Will they explain the methodology? Will they respond to information requests? Will they stand behind the allocations? A study that collapses under the first IRS question is not a real study. Finally, let's bring the DIY template back into the picture where it actually belongs. The DIY template is not meant to replace the professional study when one is warranted. The real value is upfront decision making. You use it to estimate potential reclassification. You use it to understand the scale of benefit. You use it to decide whether the property signifies the full engineering analysis. This aligns perfectly with IRS guidance because you are not pretending a rough estimate as a study. You are using it as a planning tool. If you are a tax pro, this lets you triage properties intelligently, right? If you are an investor, it lets you plan proactively instead of scrambling during the filing season. So let's wrap it up. In this lesson, you have learned how the IRS actually evaluate cost segregation work, not how it's marketed. You learn why property size and complexity change the documentation standard. You learn why engineering-based studies carry more weight under the audit technique guide. You learn where the DIY analysis fits and where it breaks. And you learn how to vet provider based on defensibility, not sale language. The next step is simple. Pick one property you own or plan to acquire. Ask yourself one question. If the IRS asks how we got the depreciation number, would I feel confident explaining them? If the answer is yes, you are properly in the DIY territory. If the answer is no and the dollar are meaningful, that's your signal to bring in the professional study and do it right. In the next lesson, we will connect this decision into your broader planning workflow, so cost segregation become a deliberate strategy, not a last-minute gamble.